this song has a shelf life that expires in November 2016, I think, so I've been opening up my shows with and getting the most out of it until the expiration date comes up. I turned to my TV, though it was hard to see these men who would be head of state. What a great country, from sea to shining sea, we watched the Republicans debate. Newt stood with his third wife and said, "You bet your life, the president is a red. He wants to tax the rich a lot, take your limo and your yacht. He wants to have the bankers' heads. And if he gets in again, he'll paint the White House pink, and then he'll hire Chavez as his VP. Then we'll be right on track to give capitalism the sack, along with the insurance industry. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true." That's the chorus. Turn the vocals back up just a wee bit, because I'm going to be shouting too much. Which one is the vocals? Let's see. Check, check, check. That's the one? Yep, lovely. That'll be good. He'll give everyone food stamps and wheelchair ramps. He'll subsidize windmills and maple syrup. He'll cripple industries with eco-friendly policies, and pretty soon we will be just like Europe. He'll shut down oil wells, give out solar cells to every home in Delaware and Illinois. He'll ban logging in the parks, he'll send the works of Karl Marx to the homes of every American girl and boy. He'll abolish pesticides, he'll be giving out free rides and free lunches too in his high-speed trains. He'll start lots of public works, full of union perks. He'll fill the cities up with bicycle lanes. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true. Lovely. Watch out, his critics tell, this shall be our death knell. He'll pull the troops out and end all of our wars. He'll cut military spending, our empire will be ending, and soon we'll be invaded by the Moors. He'll legalize all drugs, give away beer mugs and hookahs to every child, and Korans. He'll ban religions from the schools, give 40 acres and a mule to every person who makes less than 50 grand. He'll close Guantanamo to torture, he'll say no. He'll make us all drive electric cars. He'll reinstate the fairness doctrine, take off that damn flag pin, and he'll put Rupert Murdoch behind bars. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true. If anybody's looking for a seat, I see 5 seats right here, and there's 2 at that table there. They're kind of, you'd have to be really thin, but I think, you know, you can move things around. At that table, you'd have to be 2-dimensional to sit in one of those chairs, but the rest of the chairs seem to be good for 3-dimensional people, I think. So St. Patrick's Day was just a couple days ago, and St. Patrick himself was actually a cool dude, you know. He gets a bad rap for being a Christian in some circles, but he was, you know, he was in favor of female priests and open relationships. And as far as I'm concerned, if you lead a church and you like having priestesses and open marriage, then I think that's pretty cool. And then the Romans got a hold of the Irish church and kind of shaped them up and made them all fucked up, you know, basically. But in the 1840s was a big decade of emigration to the United States from Europe, and you know, refugees escaping war, famine, revolution, stuff like that, which is most of why Europeans ever came here in the first place. And but you had so many people coming that you had a bit of a labor what do you call it, labor surplus. And so what they did with the labor surplus was what they usually do with labor surpluses in the United States of America, which is start a war. And this is a story about that particular war they started during that particular labor surplus. My name is John Riley. I'll have your ear only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go. Enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. And it was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. And there amidst all these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. That's the chorus. They're all sing-alongs. Of course, a sing-along is a song you've heard before, and you learn it by the time it's over if you don't know it already, so it's not much of a sing-along that way, but in theory. We marched beneath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin-Gold bra, bright with the harp and the shamrock, and Libertad Republica. Just 50 years after Wolf Tone, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may. But from Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. What do? We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in Matamoros, where their volunteers were raping the nuns. In Monterey and Cerro Gordo, we fought on as Ireland's sons. We were the red-headed fighters for freedom amidst these brown-skinned women and men. Side by side, we fought against tyranny, and I dare say we'd do it again. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. What do? We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in 5 major battles. Churubusco was the last. Overwhelmed by the cannons from Boston, we fell after each mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside at the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side.
All right. Well, not to
be outdone by Ryan's lengthy song introductions. I'll give you a lengthy song introduction too. And I'll also make you jealous of my internationally touring lifestyle by dropping names of people in Europe, which I do all the time anyway. It's hard to avoid. It's hard to avoid appearing like a narcissist when you're a narcissist, you know. It's tough. If you like to be in front of a mic and you crave people's approval, and then you try to pretend like that's not the case. But so this song is also related to Ireland and being in a place called Flynn's. I even met Liam. For a long time, every time I would go to Canada, somebody would mention General Robert Ross, and he's a popular guy in Canada. And I thought, I kind of got the impression he might have been Canadian, because they all love him in Canada. But I didn't really look into the whole thing too much. But then I was in Ireland, staying in County Down in a town called Rostrevor, with a guy named Tommy Sands, a wonderful songwriter and activist. And so I'm there, and then I'm walking around Rostrevor, and then I run across this phallic monument, sort of not quite in the middle of town, just off from the middle of town, and it's a monument to General Robert Ross, who lived most of his life in Rostrevor. And I was asking Tommy about Robert Ross, and he said, he's the most famous resident of Rostrevor, and he was actually the most famous participant in the War of 1812, most of which took place in 1814, but things happened more slowly back then, And so, basically, the town council asked Tommy, as an activist, songwriter, they asked Tommy, would you write a song about the most famous resident of Rostrevor, Robert Ross, and Tommy gave it a lot of thought and just tried to come up with something nice to say about a very wealthy Protestant British land-stealing military general, and just couldn't come up with anything, because he grew up in the town of Rostrevor. His family were tenant farmers, peasants, and the town was named after the Ross family after it was stolen by the Ross family, hundreds of years before. And so he just politely declined the offer to write a song. But then I realized, actually, there is at least something nice I have to say about General Robert Ross. And I thought, better me than Tommy to say this about the general, because Tommy is popular among Irish Americans, and that's a dangerous audience. And, it's much safer in Ireland. Well, at least outside of northern. Actually, it's dangerous everywhere. It's a minefield. It's a minefield everywhere, really. Whatever you want. If you want to talk about anything that happened before 1916, it's a minefield. Basically, where Irish people are involved. Robert Ross was from Rostrevor. He was born in County Down. His family was given land there by the British Crown. He was a man born of the gentry, born with wealth and fame, but he joined the British Army to serve his queen and make his name. In the Napoleonic Wars, he fought in many lands, in Holland and in Spain and the far-off Egyptian sands. He was wounded there in battle, came back to fight another day, and he was sent off to attack the USA. York had been sacked and burned by invading Yankee men, but the Canadians regrouped, chased the Yankees home, and then the British Navy made its way to the shores of D.C. town, where General Ross burned the White House down. The year was 1814, the U.S. was in retreat. It was a Canadian victory, an American defeat. Without the French to help them, they got their ass whipped by the crowd when General Ross burned the White House down. The place had just been constructed only 12 years before, but it had to be rebuilt soon after this disastrous war. The president turned tail and ran like a raggedy clown when General Ross burned the White House down. He was killed a few few months later, Irish rebels stopped him in his tracks. He was buried in Nova Scotia, in the town of Halifax. He might have been forgotten, but he'll forever be renowned. He's the man who burned the White House down. He's the man who burned the White House down.